So I didn't think this was actually possible, but I'm very, very lucky and very, very humbled to be invited to speak on the Amiga panel at Vintage Computer Festival Southeast. I'm going to VCF Southeast, baby! Woo! Yeah! I am so excited about this. I can't wait. I've never been to VCF Southeast. Obviously, I've been to Vintage Computer Festival East many times. It's an amazing festival, and now I'm gonna have the opportunity to go down to VCF Southeast and be on the panel, thanks to my good friend Adam Spring, who is going to come on the show and join us. It's another new thing that I'm doing on the show. I never had a guest on my Twitch show before.
Hello, Bill. How you doing?
What is up, Adam? How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Awesome. Oh, wow. Awesome shirt, dude.
Thank you very much. I try. I'm keeping it thematic. Keeping it thematic.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the stream. This is my first time having a guest on the stream, so hopefully all the technical things are working out all right. Guys, if you're watching the stream and there's any issues with the audio or anything, just let me know, and I'll try and adjust it. But Adam, welcome to the stream. I'm so excited and honored to be invited to Vintage Computer Festival Southeast. I've been to VCF a bunch of times. I've probably been going for the past 5 to 7 years, and just started exhibiting there about 3 years ago. So I know the ropes pretty well for VCF East, but VCF Southeast is a show and a festival that I don't know much about. So I'd love to talk to you about it. You can give me some background on the show, and we'll talk about the Amiga panel. And also I know it's part of the Vintage Computer Federation, so there is related to VCF East. So we'll get into all that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So basically, this is 5.0. This is VCF Southeast 5.0, and it's hosted in Atlanta. And for the last couple of years, it's been at the Computer Museum of America over in Roswell. And that's where we're going to be, essentially. So this is the biggest one that we've ever had. For example, we've got up to 25 to 30 exhibitors. So this is the most we've ever had. We've actually just ran out of tables. And that's no exaggeration. We have ran out of tables. It's a family show. So basically anybody can come. If you want to bring your children to learn soldering, or, even yourself, there's kits where you can make watches and things like that. We're also going to have now I've made sure I've written it down in my notes here. Oh, what's this on the back? It might be a Dave Needle plug. So basically we've got the first robotics team coming. We've got one of their team coming. So if you want to play with a robot, you can play with a robot. What else have we got going on? We've got so much. So basically the consignment stands, if you want to bring and sell anything, you're more than welcome to bring and sell, but a small donation from that sale will go to the club if you do that through us. We've got T-shirts for sale there. Over the last 5 years, to give you an idea, our numbers we've got up in the 1,000 before in terms of people going through over the weekend. That might be useful for you to know. We've also got people coming in from Australia, South Dakota, Arizona. The guy from Arizona is bringing an Altair with him. We've also got people coming from the Midwest that we know about. There's also going to be a keyboard collectors exhibit, apparently, which I found out today. So we're going to have people bringing keyboards of all kinds from across the decades. They're going to be there as well. And so basically, we're also going to have Andy Hertzfeld on the Apple Mac OS software side of things talking on the Saturday. We've got Don French, who was Radio Shack TRS-80, talking on the Sunday. And also in the ether, we may very well have Chuck Peddle Skyping in as well. So for anybody thinking that this is going to largely be an Amiga event, absolutely not. We are representing all flavors of the vintage computer scene, or computing of all ages, shall we say.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to check out the museum. It sounds super cool. And, congrats. So you're only 5 years in, and to have, a show of this scope only 5 years in is really impressive. So, huge congratulations. And also big news, it is official. My partner in crime, Mr. Anthony Becker, is going to be coming down with me. So the guru is going to invade Atlanta.
So we have the complete guru meditation going on. That's fantastic. Now I'm going to let you boys know something as well, because, we like to do anniversary events at all of these things where we can tie them in. So because it's the 40th anniversary of the Atari 2600, we're not only going to be auctioning one off, but there will be an entire wall dedicated to the Atari 600, as in you can play an Atari 600 on a wall-size screen.
Wow.
So I'm
So you
sure.
mean a 2600, like the Atari VCS?
Sorry, yeah, Atari 2600. Yeah, so VCS. Yep.
Oh, awesome! Man. I can't wait. It's such a classic. I think River Raid might be my favorite game from the 2600. It's classic. I also have the 2600 Flashback Edition, which had like the built-in games that came out 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm a big Atari fan as well. And of course, Jay Miner, developer of the Antic chip, went on to be the father of the Commodore Amiga. So my heart is with early Atari stuff for sure.
Yeah, well, after seeing your boys' horde, shall we say, on your video on the lead up to your VCF, I thought you'd like to know that because as soon as I heard about that wall, I was like, if we can get those two here, I think they're going to have a lot of fun. So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, absolutely. So
The
yeah,
wall of Atari.
yeah, absolutely. And in addition to that, we'll also be celebrating the Commodore PET, the Apple II, and the Radio Shack TRS-80 as well. Obviously, both of the latter through Don and through Andy. So it's going to be a rammed weekend. It's kind of cool. I've even convinced some startups out of Georgia Tech to come as well. So that's going to be kind of cool to have like the marriage between old and new. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that is really cool. That's the great thing about these shows is preserving the history and teaching the next generation about what it was like when we were growing up in the early days. It's one of the things I like most. So I don't think we ever said it. What are the actual dates of the festival?
So yeah, I guess I've gotten away with myself. It's going to be April 29th and 30th. And yeah, so literally not this weekend coming up, but the weekend after.
It's coming up quick. I can't wait. I bought those tickets quick when I was buying them. They're like, you better buy them soon because the prices aren't going to go down in a week.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've got it's going to be a few days organization before that as well because we've got a lot coming up. So like I was talking to you about earlier, we've got a dedicated space for Viva Amiga to be showing over the 2 days. That's about the size of a small theater. You can probably fit about I'll say conservatively 30, but I reckon we could probably cram some more at a time in there. So we're going to be setting that up, and then obviously we've got the stage where the panel's going to be as well. So it's good for anybody that can make it. I promise you, it's going to be fun. I've been to the last couple, and they've just been fantastic. So yeah, it's awesome.
I've got the website up on the screen right now. It's you can go to vcfed.org and it's got all the information there. Vintage Computer Festival Southeast 5.0. Saturday, April 29th and Sunday, April 30th at the Kings Market Center, 1425 Market Boulevard, Roswell, Georgia. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Speaking of Viva Amiga, for those of you watching the stream that might not know, Viva Amiga is an incredible film about the history of the Commodore Amiga and all the personalities that were involved in designing the machine. It was directed by our good friend Zach Weddington, so it's going to be on a video loop there. But this is where I come into it. There's going to be an Amiga panel. I'm putting up the photo right now of the panelists, Adam, and I guess we're going to be talking Amiga. Do you want to talk about some of these distinguished guests that you have? That like I said on the stream earlier when I first started, like I am just super honored and like flattered and humbled to be a part of this group. I feel like I almost just don't even belong. I don't belong with these guys. I mean, Trevor Dickinson, Glenn Keller. I mean, are you kidding me? Like these guys are legends. I'm just a streamer and a YouTube guy who's a huge Amiga fan, and just to be associated with these guys on the panels is a huge honor, and I'm very, very thankful.
Well, Bill, first, I think you're too modest, and you're part of the history and you're part of the story, and that's the key thing. And so the panel really came out, I guess, organically over the last 3 years because I started talking to Zach probably around about halfway through the making of the film. So I helped him out a little bit here and there where, whether he needed emotional support or he just wanted me to look over stuff and, me being a bit of a technology history geek, give him a few tweaks here and there, or even, I'm a Brit now living in the US, giving my perspective on what it was like in Europe because, I can't overemphasize how big the Amiga 500 and the 1200 were in places like Britain. So one of the things I wanted to kind of do with the panel was give back to the community. That was really sort of key to me. And, Zach did such a wonderful job and all of you guys did as well. It's like, even if you look at the flyer that Paul Kitching did, he did that out of love, and that's a fantastic sort of thing that he did because he's just so wonderful at like that sort of stuff. So to be able to get you, to be able to get Trevor, to be able to get Glenn, and to me, Glenn is just that's just wonderful because it's the first time he has ever done anything like this. And he didn't just work on the Amiga; he also worked on what became the Atari Lynx and the 3DO as well. So we can kind of go into that as well if we want to. And then to have Aaron as well, who was so fundamentally a big part of the Amiga Atlanta scene, and to be able to give that insight to people, and also for us to be able to share that over YouTube to other Amiga lovers around the world. It was just too much of an opportunity not to do something. So to answer your question, because I guess I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent because I get passionate about these things, we have Glenn Keller. So Glenn is currently working at Foveon, which is a chip manufacturer that was bought out by Sigma cameras. So he now works on chips that goes inside of those cameras. He previously worked on the Paula chip, did contract work on the AAA chip. Like I said, worked on the Handy stroke Atari Lynx and worked on the 3DO as well. So we've got him coming, and that one is also kind of special to me. I joked around with this and the Snout Pit and the Dave Needle thing, but Dave was meant to come last year. He was going to stay with me. One of the last conversations I had with him, sadly before he passed away, was coming to the VCF. He was going to have props with him, like the actual fluffy slippers that's in the folklore of Amiga. So to have somebody like Glenn and to be able to, talk a little bit about Dave and talk from his perspective, because I think his perspective we only start to see really in Viva Amiga, particularly the clip that we used in the podcast that I did where he starts talking about how they were looking to take the mainframe or the best parts of the mainframe and bring it into a home computer. To be able to have him on stage, I could easily sit there for hours, and I'm sure you're kind of similar, being the Amiga aficionado that you are. So that's Glenn. And then
it's just, it's amazing now. The thing I'm finding it really incredible and it's really important is that we're actually getting access to all these people, the guys who actually designed the machines that we loved growing up. When I was growing up, I had absolutely no idea who was behind it. And now 30 years in the future, it's really special to be able to have access to these people, and it's really great that people like Zach are making documentaries and preserving the history. Like, for example, another great film, the 8-Bit Generation. I believe they did the last interview with Jack Tramiel, and it's just it's important. It's so important to be preserving this history and and capturing all these guys while we still have them, because we're so lucky to have them.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, also to get the stories that would otherwise be lost to history as well, in terms of, keeping this stuff going. I think that's fundamental, because I don't think vintage computing is necessarily just about the past. It's also about the present and the future. And that's one of the things that I really love about it. So for another reason, that's why I'm glad that we could do this panel, because at least we'll have something recorded at this moment in time with different phases of the history going through it. Leading into Trevor, for example, I've joked with him before. It's I refer to Trevor as the George Harrison of the Amiga scene, because basically George Harrison wanted to see The Life of Brian so badly, he gave Monty Python the money to make it happen. Trevor wanted a new Amiga so badly that he went off and formed A-Eon so he could build new Amigas. So to be able to have somebody like that, and he is genuinely doing it because he loves it. And that's a really rare thing for someone like him as a business angel. He is so passionate about it that there is no other real reason for doing it except the greater good and wanting to see it survive. In the flyer, you'll see that I put about AI.com, which is basically one of the startups that he funded, he seeded, that was started out of Peter Jackson's work. They've now got 27 million from Time Warner. That didn't come from him. He's a very modest guy. So to be able to have someone like him on stage to, for whoever's watching it at home or in the audience, to know that the Amiga movement it's not dead, it's not sleeping, it's very much alive, and we're looking to the future. That's just so cool, And then we move into someone like yourself who, from my point of view, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems as though the Amiga was one of those things that actually helped shape your career. Would I be correct in that?
You are 100% correct. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't know, I do photography and video for a living, and the Amiga was really the first home personal computer for the creative mind, right? Like way before Mac. Like this was a computer that you could have, gorgeous 4096 color photorealistic images on, and you could have a Genlock and actually connect it to your VCR, and you can make animations and record it out to videotape and connect your video camera to it. And it is certainly it played a really, really large role in shaping my career, because having access to this at home gave me confidence, and it sparked my interest in video. And thanks to the Amiga, I actually ended up using some of my work that I did on the Amiga in my application to film school, and it worked. I got into NYU Film School and ended up becoming a cinematographer, and that has a lot to do with my Amiga and having access to such incredible tools at such an early age.
And I believe that also fed into Viva Amiga, because didn't you do some cinematography on that as well?
I did. Well, it's funny. One day I was sitting at home, and I was like, oh man, I'm really in the mood to watch a documentary. And I was like, I wonder if anyone ever made a documentary about the Amiga. So I just Googled Commodore Amiga documentary. And sure enough, Viva Amiga popped up, and I was like, oh, awesome. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It was a Kickstarter, and I missed it. But oh, wait, it's not out yet. And I was like, wow, it's been a Kickstarter a while back, but it looks like he's still working on it. And now I'm a cinematographer. I'm like, maybe he could use some help. I mean, who knows? I figured he's probably finished with it already and just editing it, but I figured I'd send him a message and see if he needed any help. And I messaged Zach, and sure enough, he's like, yeah, we still have a little bit of work to do on the film. Maybe you can help us get across the finish line. So that's what I did with my buddy Anthony Becker. We shot. We're a good team, because Anthony, he has like the most incredible Amiga collection of anyone that I know, and he's like an Amiga and Commodore encyclopedia of knowledge. So we tapped into his collection, and we started shooting all like the sad part of the movie, like the death of Amiga scenes. It was Anthony and I out in a parking lot shooting what we call mellow yellow. He's got this old keyboard that is super, super yellow, and I have this old 4000 that has a super yellow faceplate. So we shot the kind of the death of Amiga scenes, and then we also shot some of the with Zach. We shot some of the shots of the Amigas themselves. We used some from Zach's collection, some from Anthony's collection. And so, yeah, we were able to shoot some things for Zach that ended up in the film. Some of my historical photos from the Westchester Amiga user group also appear in the film, which is really amazing. It makes it super personal for me to see, photos of myself and my friends when we were really young. There's even a photo of like me and Anthony next to each other when we were like 13 years old playing with our Amigas, because he wanted pictures of people actually using their Amigas back in the day. So yeah, I mean, Zach did 99.9999% of the film. We contributed a very, very small amount, but the fact that we were able to contribute anything is really like an honor. And we also helped give Zach, I guess, some support, emotional support on the to get across the finish line, because I know it's tough for him, man. It was a tough, long, difficult process.
Yeah.
But we played like a small role, but it's just very, very happy to play any part in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And like what I did there, I got you to talk about your own sort of, way how you feed into this. So that works for me. That's awesome. So then basically moving on to Aaron. Yeah, I mean, Aaron is going to be a really interesting one, because he was so wired into the Amiga Atlanta scene. And when I first moved here, I wasn't surprised in one respect, because I knew a little bit before I moved, but the extent to which the Amiga was being used, particularly in the video scene here, was just phenomenal. Like some of the stories he'll have about Amigas being used for the Olympics and things like that, it's just going to put that nice sort of community spin on it from a local angle that I think Zach really captured very well. I think between Viva Amiga and the B2B Amiga years, you get a really good holistic viewpoint on, what was going on in the US and what was going on in Europe. But I think for me, and I don't know whether you feel the same way, and if anybody listening, they do come and watch the film, it really, the Viva Amiga in particular, really comes across as a community-driven film. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I absolutely love Bedroom Civilians, the Amiga years as well. Those guys, Anthony and his wife did an absolutely incredible job. The film is brilliant. And the cool thing, I hate to compare the two, Viva Amiga and Bedroom Civilians, because they're two totally different films. Even though they're about the Amiga, they're two totally different films. They're both like equally good. I guess you could say that Viva Amiga focuses a little bit more on the personal stories, in the U.S., and Bedroom Civilians focuses on a lot of the details of the production of Amiga. But I don't like to categorize it like that. I just think they're both great films, and they're both different films. And Zach's definitely does an amazing job of capturing the spirit of the people behind it. I like the scene when when R.J. Michael is describing. They're at the launch of the Amiga at Lincoln Center in New York, and Andy Warhol and Deborah Harry are on stage, and like RJ and the team are like behind the curtain, praying that this fill tool is gonna work, and they're not sure if it's gonna work. They think it's probably not gonna work. And then I was like, literally, like, even though I knew what happened, the way Zach cut the piece together and the way RJ explains the whole scene, like, I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was like sitting there, I was like sweating. I was like, oh no, I hope it works. I hope it works. I hope it works. And then he clicks on. I'm like, yes, it worked. Awesome. So it was that's really great filmmaking, that you can put someone on the edge of their seat, even though they know the outcome of what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's you've teased out a really key point there as well. It isn't just necessarily a film for somebody that's an enthusiast of Amiga or vintage computing or retro computing, whatever you want to call it. Zach did a very good job. It's accessible to anybody. It's a human interest story, so I think the panel is going to reflect that, and I think it's going to be fantastic. And it looks as though we've got a lot of time potentially in the afternoon, so we can indulge if we need to. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think Amiga guys can talk for a long time.
Oh,
we have
absolutely.
lots to talk about. Yeah. You were mentioning about Aaron. I guess there's a lot of European viewers who watch the Twitch stream, and the Olympics were in Atlanta in what year? That was 1996.
It was around about that 94, 96. I can't remember now.
I'm pretty sure it was 96. Yeah, and I didn't. Yeah. Anyway, the Summer Olympics were in Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure it was 1996. And you're saying that the toaster was used for the Olympics, which is something I'm just learning now. It's incredible. I had no idea that they used the toaster for the Olympics.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. So basically, he'll tell the story in more detail, but the Apple that was used at the time, which wasn't used really for anything except, I think it was like operating a projector or something like that. It was something very minor, right? That got all the media attention when Amigas were basically fundamental to helping Atlanta get the Olympic bid. So Aaron will talk more about that in detail. He's told me the story many times. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, so that's why I'm not telling the complete story. But I mean, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier of if we don't talk about this, if this oral history is not spoken about and disseminated, then it could otherwise get lost to history. And I think that's another thing, coming back to that human interest element. The really interesting thing about the Amiga is it's only really been in the last, I would say, since around about 2010, but certainly since the Amiga 30th, that we've really seen how much Amiga affected so many people behind the scenes of different industries. Particularly in, like you were saying about, as a creative tool in the video industry and also in the video game industry as well. So it's, to have that perspective now, and also have the ability to, have something like the VCF Southeast, but at the same time be able to disseminate it to a wider group of people and to record it and keep it for time immemorial. I think that, to me, is going to be a real fun thing about the panel as well. And also knowing the personalities involved. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how I wrangle the circus, shall we say?
Oh, I think you're gonna do a great job. It's a great group of guys, and and also obviously Zach has gone into the filmmaking himself too because of the Amiga, of course.
Of course, outrun the future. So the one we haven't spoken about, is Zach. The Philadelphia-based filmmaker who, again, similar to yourself, got into what he does now and works ironically in the QVC building where Commodore used to be on a regular basis. When he's doing his corporate stuff. So to have all of you there is, I feel like I'm going to be the luckiest person in the audience because I'm going to be up on stage with you. Let me put it that way.
Oh, well, we're all lucky, and we're all lucky to be invited. And thank you for. I can't even imagine the amount of time and effort that is put into organizing shows like this. So the work that you guys do, the work that the guys up here on VCF East do, is just it's mind-boggling. You guys all have regular jobs, and the amount of time and effort that you put into these shows is incredible, and I'm very thankful for it. And I know thousands and thousands of other people are as well.
Yeah, no, me too, man. I mean, the sense of community we get, through doing this is just great. It's so Ravi Abbott, who is part of the duo along with Dan Wood that do the Retro Hour. We were actually talking yesterday that, like, whenever you meet an Amiga person, you immediately just click. In fact, even you, me, and Anthony had that conversation back when we met in November when we were over for David Pleasance's thing in Philadelphia. So it's going to be a nice meeting of minds and interests is the way I would describe it, and fun for all the family. Oh, and before I do go, I just also wanted to let you know, because it is the 40th anniversary of the Atari 2600, we're also auctioning one off. So there's an incentive there as well. If anybody wants a 2600, we're auctioning one off.
That's fantastic, and it's amazing getting to, like you were saying, retro computing is not just the past; it's also the future. There's all these guys who are modding cases. They're coming out with like multi-carts for all these old systems. This stuff is not just from the past. It's got a bright future as well, because a good product is a good product, and good games are good games, whether they were made 20 years ago or 20 days ago. A good game
absolutely.
is a good game. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think again, one of the exhibitors that's going to be there is a guy by the name of Jeff Stokes. And Jeff, as I was talking to you about earlier, before while we were setting this up, he is just a phenomenal coder, and like the stuff that you will see that he's doing with GEOS on the on Commodore 64 is just you're going to love it, and I know Anthony will as well. So I'm excited.
Oh yeah, Anthony's pumped. I literally just found out like an hour ago that he booked the ticket. So you're gonna have to call up Mr. Paul 3D and get Anthony on the flyer too.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry. I'll get him on there. Yeah, that thing's gonna have no space left. We're just gonna basically just invade it. It'll go viral. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I sent Paul the picture of Anthony and I together. So if he has time, again, time is the enemy of all us. That'd be awesome. Yeah. And again, thanks so much for the invite. I'm so excited. Let's just take a quick peek again at the website. So it's vcfed.org, and you click on festivals and VCF Southeast. All the information is there. There's also, let's just talk about this museum. There's also a website for the museum where the festival is held. It's called the Atlanta Historical Computer Museum. The Atlanta Historical Computing Society. And their website is atlhcs.org. I have it up on the screen. I think you mentioned a little bit about the museum before. Is there anything else you want to say about it? It looks awesome.
Yeah, so basically the museum has got a variety of things, including an Osborne one, an Apple one, and an entire room dedicated to the NEC systems and history of Pixar as well. Basically, Lonnie Mims, who owns and runs the museum, had so many computers that his family was like, "You're going to do something with these? You're going to create a museum, or we're going to get rid of them." So basically, Lonnie he's a massive collector, is a real estate guy, so he's got a lot of different buildings. So it's actually in one of the old CompUSA buildings at the moment. So this is actually going to be the last year that the VCF Southeast will probably be housed there, because the museum is moving to its own dedicated new building. It's in its own building at the moment, but it's going to even have a more dedicated building to basically keep things going in Atlanta. And I mean, it's just, there's a phenomenal collection of stuff there, whether it's Microsoft, Apple. There's some mainframe stuff there as well. But yeah, there's just, if you come and once you get there, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a good venue for what we're doing. It's a very good venue for what we're doing.
It's funny. Anthony did mention to me that it's an old CompUSA store, and for those of you guys who don't know what CompUSA is, it was like a huge computer store that we had here in the USA. It was like a supermarket of computers. So it's pretty fitting that this is happening at a former CompUSA. And it's funny, also, Anthony bought a VCF Southeast t-shirt at VCF East a couple weeks ago, so it was kind of like he was kind of like predicting the future. He just like willed it to happen. He bought the t-shirt, so he had to come to the show.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that like you guys are coming, and anybody else as well, because it's going to be it's going to be a fun couple of days, and I think it's going to go by very quickly. So I think it's
It
going to
always
yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah.
They go by too fast.
No, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
The one last thing, yeah, Adam, thanks so much. The one last thing is there was also a video about this museum that the New York Times made. There is a link here. They can see the URL on the screen, but it's computermuseumofamerica.com. And if you go there, you can check out this awesome video that the New York Times made about the museum. So can't wait. I saw the video. It's beautiful. The museum looks awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait till next weekend, man. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, well, I'll also take you to the Joystick Gaming Bar as well if we have time, and we can play some, some classic Donkey Kong. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you have the shirt too, so you have.
Well, that's I've got the shirt, but some Donkey Kong and some Gallagher that works for me. So it's all good.
Yeah, how amazing are these barcades? Are incredible. We have a bunch of them here in New York, and I was in Minnesota last week on work. And I'll show some pictures of that maybe later in the stream. And I found this retro arcade / bar, and it was packed, man. It was awesome. And I think the whole retro scene is just exploding. And getting back to Amiga really quick is like, because of our YouTube channel, I didn't really say before, but back in 1988, I started the Westchester Amiga user group. And we're an Amiga user group that still meets to this day. Like we've never stopped meeting since '88. We actually started a little bit earlier than that. We were part of another group, but then we became Westchester Amiga user group back in 1988. And there was a while there where it was basically the whole group was just like me, Anthony, and 2 friends. But now, thanks to the whole like resurgence in Amiga and getting out there on social media and the YouTube channel. It's like we have new members, and we have lots of new members. It's incredible. We're gonna have to find like a legitimate place to meet, right? Because right now we meet in a shopping mall, and we're gonna have to get a better place because it's just exploding. It's awesome.
It's interesting. It's sort of coming back to what we were talking about earlier about past, present, and future type thing. This sort of stuff, because like I said, this is the busiest one that we've ever had. And also if you look at the resurgence of things like vinyl. What does that sort of say to you about, that material culture, the tangibility of the past, and people now yearning for that? Because the thing that amazes me is on the cultural memory side, like people like you and me, obviously, we remember all the advertising, we remember the systems, we remember being able to go in the shops and getting them and stuff like that. But what about the generation that has no concept about this, but are just, it's touched an interest with them? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing that I find really interesting about all of this. The people that you wouldn't necessarily think would have an interest in this are really starting to buzz about it,
Yeah, it's so true. Like some of my fondest memories are like opening up a record album or like my I'll never forget like the cover to like the Guns N' Roses CD that I had, one of the earliest CDs, and it was something that I could like see and touch. And now like downloading music's amazing. It's amazing technology and it's convenient, and you can download 24-bit audio and it sounds incredible. But there's still something missing when there's nothing physical there for you to associate with and communicate with.
Yeah, absolutely. And also as well, look at something like the Switch. The Neo Geo library's now on there as well. So it's like even new systems are looking for old content. What does that sort of say to you when the old maybe I'm just showing my age, but when the old games are necessarily doing it more for you now than the new ones? I think we live in interesting times.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Yeah, Retro Demo Scene says nostalgia is the current and the future.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Adam, it was a pleasure. You're my first Twitch guest.
I'm honored. Honored.
It was your idea to do this. I should have thought of this, but thanks so much for offering to come on. And I think I'm going to make a clip of this and throw it up on my YouTube as well, because it's good to preserve it, and this way it'll get out to a wider audience as well. I hope the interview went all right. I'm not much of an interviewer. I'm usually a behind the camera guy, so hopefully.
I thought this was good. I hope we covered everything you wanted to cover, and I hope it went well. So no, I think it's good.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
All right, so guys, Vintage Computer Festival Southeast, Saturday, April 29th, and Sunday, April 30th. On Saturday, April 29th, I'm going to be part of the Viva Amiga Q&A panel that Adam is the moderator of. Zach Weddington from the film Viva Amiga, director of the film Viva Amiga, will be there. Trevor Dickinson, Amiga legend and president of A-Eon Technologies. He's advancing the next-gen Amigas in an incredible way. Glenn Keller, designer of the Paula chip. The Paula chip was the sound chip in the Commodore Amiga that, one of the custom chips that made it such a classic machine. And Aaron, you pronounce it Ruscetta?
Ruscetta.
Ruscetta. Yeah, he's going to talk about the local Amiga scene in Atlanta and touch on a lot of the video toaster, the video toaster scene and how it was used in the 1996 Olympics, which is awesome. I had no idea. So, Adam, thank you so very much. It was a pleasure having you, and I can't wait for next weekend.
Yeah, you too. And remember, Dave Needle forever.
Dave Needle. Yeah, so if anyone's, I assume everyone's watching knows who Dave Needle is, but if they're not, do you want to just mention Dave?
Yeah, so I mean, Dave was an integral part of the hardware engineer for the Amiga, and then him and RJ went on and did, what eventually became the Atari Lynx and the 3DO gaming console as well. He was also a thoroughly nice guy, and I was very fortunate to be a friend of his towards the end of his life, and wonderful human being. So good guy.
Awesome. Everyone's saying goodbye. Marvin says bye. Hell's Angel, Amiton TV, and Mr. Paul Kitching 3D checking in a little bit late. But Paul, don't you worry.
Awesome.
You'll be able to see a replay of this, and I'll probably grab a clip and throw it up on the YouTube channel as well. So Adam, I know you've got a lot of work to do, a lot of prep.
Indeed. And one quick plug for Paul before he goes. Anybody needs any 3D graphics work done, go to his website. He's the man. All right?
Yes.
Mr.
Paul Kitching and Mr. Paul 3D did all the 3D graphics for Viva Amiga, which are spectacular.
Indeed. Lead 3D artist. Or 3D modeler,
yes,
as he is on the titles. Anyway,
yes.
Catch you later.
Thanks, Adam. You're the man. See you next week.